Pam Bondi was mocked, dismissed, and dared to prove herself on stage. What happened next completely flipped the story and humbled everyone watching. It happened during a podcast episode no one thought would go viral. The guest was Jackson Weller, an indie rock musician from Portland, known for his progressive takes and sharp tongue. He was halfway through a story about playing at a fundraiser when the host asked casually, "Ever run into anyone from politics backstage?" Jackson chuckled, took a sip of his drink, and leaned into the mic. "Pam Bondi was at one of those events," he said, smirking. "Nice lady, I guess. But come on." She looked at the grand piano like it was IKEA furniture. "I doubt she can tell." Middle C from a cup of coffee, the room laughed. It was the kind of line that landed well with his usual crowd, young, left-leaning, and suspicious of anyone with a political past. Jackson was known for these offhand jabs. Most didn't take him too seriously. But this time it stuck. Clips of that moment spread across social media. Within hours, the quote trimmed, looped, and turned into memes, circulated with captions like "Jackson drags Pam Bondi with a musical burn," and "Pam, do you even know what a piano is?" She didn't respond. Not then in Tampa. Pam was sitting at her kitchen counter when her phone buzzed. Her niece had sent her the clip with a crying laugh emoji. Pam watched it once then. Again, she didn't flinch, didn't roll her eyes, she just sighed. Calmly closed the video and slid the phone face down. Her tea had gone cold, but she didn't delete the clip. Jackson wasn't done either. A week later, he mentioned her again, this time in an interview with a Seattle-based online mag. "I guess she's lawyer smart, sure, but I doubt she's got a creative bone in her body." He said, "You can't fake art either. You feel it or you don't." That quote made it worse. It shifted from being a joke to something meaner, more personal. Some fans laughed it off. Others felt uncomfortable. A few older fans started commenting things like, "Is this really necessary? And just play music, man." But Jackson didn't notice or didn't care. He was touring in Florida next month. Anyway, he figured the noise would die down. What he didn't know was that Pam had received a last-minute invite to a high-profile charity event in Sarasota, a music and arts fundraiser for kids. The very same event Jackson had committed to performing at. The lineup was mixed: local politicians, celebrities, philanthropists, and artists. Pam wasn't planning on speaking or taking the stage at all. She was attending as a quiet donor, someone who preferred to stay in the background and support from the sidelines. She hadn't played publicly in over 15 years, but something was shifting now. She went into her guest room later that week, pulled off the old sheet covering her upright piano, and ran her fingers over the keys. It was out of tune, stiff from time. She smiled to herself. Then she pulled out her phone. "Hey, Dan," she said, calling her old music instructor from law school, still tuning pianos. Meanwhile, Jackson kept doing press. He joked again about Pam during a radio appearance in Clearwater. "Maybe she'll bring her sheet music." He laughed. "Who knows? Maybe she'll surprise us with chopsticks." He didn't know she'd been practicing nearly every day. He didn't know she'd already picked the piece. He didn't know she had no intention of talking, just playing. But the night of the event was getting closer, and not everyone would be laughing when it finally came. Pam Bondi's public image had always been tightly controlled. Sharp suits, firm statements, camera-ready smiles for years. That's all most people knew of her. Prosecutor, politician, Fox News contributor. A woman who kept things measured, deliberate, focused. But behind that curtain was something rarely seen, a different rhythm entirely. Before law school, before politics, before the headline, there was music. Pam grew up in Dunedin, Florida. Her father was the town's fire chief. Her mom taught Sunday school and played piano at church every Thursday afternoon. Pam would walk 3 blocks from school to Mrs. Donatelli's house, where an aging Baldwin upright piano sat in the living room, just a few feet from the smell of lemon polish and old books. She was 8 when she first touched the keys, 10 when she fell in love with Chopin. Mrs. Donatelli was tough. She'd slap the edge of the piano bench with a ruler every time Pam slouched or dropped a finger. "Feel the space," she used to say. "Don't just press notes. Tell the truth." By 15, Pam was playing sonatas from memory. At 16, she won second place at the Tampa Bay Youth Music Competition, narrowly missing first after freezing mid-measure during a Debussy piece that lost stung. She never forgot the silence in the room when she stood up and walked off stage. Without finishing, she didn't cry. She just folded the program into a neat square and kept it in her wallet for years. But life had other plans. Her parents split. College came fast in music, while still inside her got quieter. She pursued criminology, then law. She told herself, She'd come back to music later when things calmed down. They never did. Years passed, career took over, long work days, press briefings, courtrooms, and campaign trails. The piano stayed in her guest room, gathering dust beneath old books and framed photos. People stopped asking about her hobbies. Most assumed she didn't have any. Even her closest colleagues didn't know about the piano. Only one person ever brought it up again. A man named Grant Halberg. Grant had been a deputy prosecutor, a few years younger than her, with a quiet way about him during a particularly brutal case in 2007. The two had started working late nights in the office one night over bad takeout. Grant noticed sheet music in Pam's briefcase. She froze when he pointed it out. "You play?" he asked, used to. She said, "What piece?" She hesitated. "Nocturne in C-sharp minor." He blinked seriously. "That's not beginner stuff." She nodded, then went back to eating. Nothing else was said. A few weeks later on her birthday, he left a small envelope on her desk. Inside was a single music page, just the opening bars of that nocturne along with a yellow sticky note. "Don't wait forever," it read. He died 5 months later. Brain aneurysm, no warning. She never threw away the note years later when her niece sent her that clip of Jackson Weller joking about her in the piano. Pam didn't just hear a jab. She felt the same tight breath she had felt after walking off stage at 16. That sting, that quiet push. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even embarrassed. She was remembering by the time the Sarasota charity event rolled around, she had practiced every night for nearly 4 weeks. Her hands had been stiff at first, but her muscle memory returned quicker than she expected. She kept the sessions, private lights low. No recordings, just her. The keys and a promise she hadn't realized she'd made to herself all those years ago. The piece she picked wasn't random. It was the same one she never finished playing on stage. Debut sees Claire de Lune. As the date approached, Pam's name started appearing on the guest list for the event, but listed only as a donor. No public statement, no hint of anything unusual. Jackson Weller didn't notice, or if he did, he didn't connect the dots. He had a set list ready, a handful of industry friends were flying in. He figured it would be a fun, easy night with a bit of press, some drinks and applause. Maybe he'd make a comment or two, get a few laughs. Show the crowd that charm he was known for. What he didn't realize was that Pam wasn't coming for attention. She was coming for the music, but the stage wouldn't belong to him forever. And when it didn't, things would start to shift in a way no one saw coming. The Ritz-Carlton Ballroom in Sarasota shimmered under strings of soft light, the kind that made every cocktail dress look tailored and every glass of champagne feel a little fancier. It was a charity event, sure, but it was also a photo op, a gathering of Florida's well-connected with silent auctions. Catered shrimp towers and a Steinway grand piano parked near center stage like furniture waiting to be acknowledged. The theme was art for the next generation, raising funds for local school music programs. Pam Bondi arrived just after 7:15 p.m., wearing a black satin dress with simple heels. She didn't bring a +1. She didn't alert the press. She hadn't been on a stage in years. She didn't plan to be on one tonight either, unless the moment called for it across the room. Jackson Weller was already in performance mode. He wore a brown suede jacket and an open-collared shirt. His guitar case leaned against the table nearby, and he was deep in conversation with two local journalists and a fellow musician from Miami who'd opened for him earlier that year. He didn't notice Pam. At first, she stayed